New Mexico's Rio Chama River is legendary, famed for its dramatic cliff faces, wild geology, scenic campsites, and white water. Over 3 days and 2 nights, we paddled through one of the Southwest's most beautiful canyons, camped under the massive ponderosas, ran some classic rapids, and traveled back through 200 million years of Earth's history, one river mile at a time. If you're planning your own trip or just want to see what makes the Chama so legendary, you're in the right place. Our trip started at Cooper's El Vado Ranch, just below El Vado Dam, and ended at Chavez Canyon, a classic 22-mile stretch often referred to as the Wilderness Section. This section is managed by the BLM and U.S. Forest Service, and from April 15th to September 15th, you'll need a permit. Weekend launches are in high demand, so there's a lottery system. Sunday through Thursday permits are first come, first serve for one group per day. We scored a Thursday permit to put us ahead of the weekend chaos. The launch at Cooper's El Vado Ranch is a family-run spot that's been the gateway to the Chama for nearly 60 years. Here, a representative from the BLM will check your permit and required gear. For a weekday launch, it was a relaxed and pleasant experience. I've heard it's a very different atmosphere on Friday mornings, though. Parts of the first few miles wind through private land and the sovereign territory of the Jicarilla Apache Nation, so no camping or hiking on this initial stretch. Flows on the Chama are highly managed. Early season, April through July, depends on snowmelt and reservoir inflow, but from mid-July to mid-September, the dam releases extra water on weekends for boaters. For the 2025 season, 500 CFS releases began Friday mornings and ended Sunday mornings. The rest of the week typically sees very low flows, around 80 to 100 CFS. At low water, you'll be practicing your liftover technique. A lot. The hot springs are well worth a stop, though you should be aware of and respect best practices here. They're breeding habitat for northern leopard frogs and other aquatic species that rely on these rare ecosystems. The springs are about the temperature of a comfortable hot tub, not boiling hot. I'm not sure what the source of hot water is, but the temps suggest groundwater is being circulated through fractures or faults in the canyon's bedrock, not geyser hot water like you'd expect from volcanic heating. At low flow, the river is mellow but shallow. Expect to hop out and drag your boat if you go when it's low. And depending on your line choice and how heavily loaded you are, maybe expect to hop out frequently. It's a good time to appreciate the scenery or question your life choices. But in a canoe, it adds to the fun. You're constantly reading the river ahead and trying to spot sleepers in sections that would otherwise be fairly lazy. Our first night's camp was at a site called Rock Pile. Campsites are designated and marked, and most are first come, first served, though there are a few larger sites that can be reserved for large groups ahead of time. This camp offers an excellent view of a wall across the river capped by Dakota sandstone. This reddish-orange sandstone should look familiar. It's what makes up the valley walls for much of the river up to this point. The Dakota group was deposited during an inundation of the western interior seaway during Cretaceous time. Deposition started around 100 million years ago. As the sea level rose, streams carrying sediment dropped their load. Shorelines transgressed and regressed frequently in response to sea level changes, causing the Dakota to often be interbedded with silts and clays. Speaking of silts and clays, that was my only complaint about this campsite. The landing was deep and mucky, but otherwise a great spot. Allegedly, New Mexico is home to trout that tolerate these highly turbid waters and can offer excellent fishing, though we didn't personally see any proof of these allegations. The nice thing about paddling this section in 3 days was it gave us plenty of leisure time and there was no rush to get on the river in the morning, especially since we knew the flow would pick up once the higher release made its way downstream to us. So we had plenty of time to sleep in, make a big breakfast, or whatever we wanted. For me, that means roaming around and soaking up the sights. Getting up on top of the first ridge offers excellent views of the canyon and a peek at many other things that you're likely to miss just passing by on the river. Eventually, we broke camp and packed the canoes back up to stay ahead of the Friday paddlers riding the bubble down. We finished paddling through the Burrow Canyon Formation, the last of the Cretaceous rock, and down into the Jurassic with sights set on the first notable rapid, Argonne. If you want to scout the rapid, the landing upstream is easily identified by Christmas Tree Rock. We did just that and walked around to scout. The main obstacle is a pile of sharp sandstone on the bottom left that has fallen from the cliff made of the Somerville Formation. It was pretty marginal at low flow. We had to drag into it with our canoes, but from there it went. The core was still plenty fun enough to get a novice canoeer like myself's heart pumping, and I noticed smiles all around. So I think still a great time at 100 CFS. Tiger Wall is a good example of desert varnish, the dark vertical stripes on the Entrada sandstone cliffs. These stripes are at least partially created by the iron and manganese-rich water running down the cliffs and wind-blown dust sticking to the cliff faces. It's also one of the many locations you'll see tuffoni, small, roundish, karst-like erosional features in the sandstone cliffs. Geologists have proposed many explanations for their development, but most believe it's related to multiple actions, with cyclic wetting and drying and repeated salt crystal formation being major components. As we continued downstream, most people in our group were getting excited about the Dark Canyon Rapid. Myself, on the other hand, was looking forward to searching for the Allosaurus tracks, rumored to be up the canyon just before the rapid. We hiked up Dark Canyon to find the tracks in the sandstone. Allosauruses were at the top of the Jurassic food chain, being the largest land-based predator at the time. They grew to over 30 feet long and 16 feet tall, weighing over 3,300 pounds. Models estimate they could run 21 miles per hour. It was wild to think about such a creature stomping on the same ground we were now standing on 150 million years later. After checking out the tracks, we took on Dark Canyon Rapid, a long boulder field with some big rocks at the top that need to be avoided. The most memorable thing about this rapid to us was the bubble of water from the dam release caught up with us while our group was in the rapid, giving some of us an extra boost. We stopped and looked at many camps along the way, and I really didn't see a bad one. They all looked like great places to spend a night alongside the river. But our second camp was one of the best we saw, in my opinion. It even showed less use than many of the others we saw, I'm guessing because the landing wasn't ideal. The site was elevated, offering great views. There was plenty of space, and being surrounded by large ponderosa pines was the icing on the cake. From camp, you'll notice a nice view across the river at the Entrada Sandstone, the last unit during the Jurassic period. If you look far enough up the canyon wall, you will see many other younger units you paddled through upstream, including the colorful Morrison Formation. I haven't ever indulged in a real river trip before, so I was enamored by the whole meal production. Think family style, with enough food to feed a small army. If you're used to backpacking rations, prepare to be overwhelmed. But having a full-on supper or hot breakfast this far from your vehicle was luxurious. The forest was more dense at this camp, so the big canyon views were more obscured on my morning hike. But it still offered lots of space to roam around, soaking up the sights and sounds, and getting eyes on the river from a different vantage point. The last day, and the canyon walls just keep getting better. We started the morning out by passing the only small group we encountered on our whole trip. They must have put in Friday morning and took the camp just downstream of us that night. The highlight on this final stretch for me is Chama Wall, a towering cliff displaying the lower section of Jurassic rocks and uppermost Triassic. But perhaps just as interesting is what you don't see, a 44 million year gap of missing time between the two. The contact between the Jurassic Entrada Sandstone and the Triassic Chinle Group is a major unconformity. The depositional environment of both formations was markedly different, and none of the time between them is preserved in the rock record in this area. It's a literal line between two worlds. As you approach the takeout at Chavez Canyon, you'll see a monastery on river left, and the river becomes wide, straight, and mellow. The takeout was straightforward and, lucky for us, desolate while we were there unloading our gear. It's hard to believe in 3 days and 2 nights, going down one canyon, we can get such a great look at about 200 million years of geologic history. The Rio Chama is more than just a beautiful float if you know what to look for. It's a journey through time. I'm glad this section of the Chama is designated as Wild and Scenic. While the wild admittedly might be a bit of a stretch given all the private development, droves of permit pursuance, and the river being heavily engineered and controlled, but the scenic part is spot on. If you haven't paddled the Chama yet, put it on your list. There's a lot more to see than you might expect.
Hey, what?